Hello my dear children, Namaste and welcome to another session of our Class 10 ICSE one-shot series. This is Ambika, Master Teacher of Biology at Vedantu. I hope you're all doing absolutely great, high in spirits, high in motivation. Exams are about to start within a few days and I understand you may not be able to give enough time to biology at this point of time because it's not going to be happening anytime within the next 30 days. But anyway, this is the time for you to ensure that your at least one round of revisions are done with all your chapters in biology, which is why we launched the fast track series for all subjects, of course, and one shot biology. We have 3 more chapters left, including today's, and then within the next couple of days, we will be done with chapters in one shot as well. So the chapter that we are going to be discussing today in one shot or in one capsule is going to be human evolution. So let's get started. I understand this is a very simple chapter, but at the same time a little confusing when it comes to theory of natural selection and theory of inheritance of acquired characters and also the stages of human evolution. In fact, that was pretty much the content of the chapter. What I just said is actually just summarizing everything that's in the chapter, of course with a lot more details. But anyway, let's look at all that. Before we get started, let us look at a positive quote. Many of life's failures are experiences by people who did not realize how close they were to success when they gave up. That's amazing, right? Because quite a lot of times we keep trying, we keep working very hard, we think that, okay, we are very determined and this time I will do it. But again, it may not lead us or it may not take us to where we want it to be. But never mind. The idea is to try just one more time. Nothing else. That is all that we need to keep in mind because you never know. You may be somewhere very close to the peak of success, right? So keeping that in mind, let us get started. The first major concept in this chapter is Lamarckism. So here we go. Jean-Baptiste Lamarck. Of course, there were a lot of theories put forth by different scientists, of course, about the origin of life, the theories of evolution and all of those. But the 2 most popular theories are what we have in the ICSE Class 10 syllabus. The first one of that is Lamarckism. Jean-Baptiste Lamarck. What did he propose? He proposed the theory which we call the theory of inheritance of acquired characteristics. Inheritance of acquired characteristics. Okay, so this is basically the other name for Lamarckism and also basically the summary of what the theory is all about. What did Lamarck say? Keep in mind the idea of the giraffe. With the story of the giraffe, Lamarck explained that with continuous use of their necks, the giraffe's neck started growing longer and longer because they wanted to reach out for food onto taller trees when there was a lot of food scarcity at the ground level. Right? They kept on doing this. They kept on stretching and stretching. With every generation, the little bit of stretched neck or the stretched neck, whatever the that particular generation of giraffe had, accumulated within its span of life in order to reach out to tall trees, were passed on to its progeny. And the next generation further kept stretching its neck to reach for taller trees, and thus those characters, the stretching of neck or the stretched neck can be a very small amount that was stretched. But whatever it was, Lamarck said that it kept on getting passed on to its progeny. It kept on getting inherited by its progeny. This is what he meant by inheritance of acquired characteristics. The characteristic that the giraffe had acquired during its span of life, the stretched neck, got inherited by its progeny. Okay, so this was of course disproved by a lot of scientists, including August Weismann. We have discussed a lot of it in detail in our complete evolution chapter, so if at all you want to know more about it, if at all you have forgotten it, or if at all you just want to watch it for the very first time, please do check out the ICSE Biology playlist. We've discussed all of this well in detail. Okay, so let's see. This flow chart is basically summarizing everything about Lamarckism. Internal urge, there is an internal urge. According to environmental changes, there are new needs which are arising. Keep in mind the story of the giraffe, that it was a very short-necked animal at first, but it became what it is today because of environmental changes and inheritance of acquired characteristics. Okay, new needs, and then those animals which disused those organs according to the new needs led to a condition wherein those structures would disappear. Whereas those animals or those organisms which used those respective organs according to the new needs in the environment ended up having a better developed structure, better developed organs, that particular organ. Okay, in this case, it's the neck of the giraffe. And eventually, if the structures disappeared, those also got inherited by the next progeny, by the next generation. Even if it was developed better, that was also inherited. And according to that, it led to the origin of a new species. So it is said that you don't see short-necked giraffes these days, basically because those that inherited only the short necks of their parents ended up not being able to survive on land, and eventually we can explain or we can conclude that only the long-necked giraffes managed to survive and hence passed on the characteristics to their progeny, resulting in the long-necked giraffes that we see in today's world. This is basically the gist of the theory of inheritance of acquired characteristics, also called Lamarckism. Okay, now the next most well-developed theory of evolution, yes, it is Darwinism. What did Charles Darwin propose? Darwin proposed that the theory of natural selection is what works best. Okay, that is what can explain evolution the best. Nature selects the most favorable characters, or nature selects the most favorable, fittest organisms. How does it do this? What is the definition of fittest in such a case? All of these Darwin explained with various examples. Okay, so we have discussed all of this in our regular session theories, children. So since this is one shot, I do not want to exactly make a replica of that session. We will just go through what Darwinism is at a glance. Okay, so basically there is a struggle for existence when there is too much competition, when there are too many organisms, overproduction. Basically, as you can see, there is competition and hence struggle for existence. So organisms keep struggling to exist, and then that results in various variations according to needs in the environment. A lot of variations can be seen, and then there can be variations which are unfavorable. There can be variations which are favorable also. Unfavorable variations would lead to elimination of those organisms because they are not able to survive. Unfavorable in the sense, any kind of variation that doesn't help that organism get adapted to that particular environment. That is what we mean by unfavorable variation. Okay, so such organisms naturally wouldn't be able to survive and they die off. Whereas when organisms inherit favorable variations, that results in survival of the fittest because they are considered to be fitter than those which inherited the unfavorable variations. Right, makes a lot of sense. So survival of the fittest would be the next step, and then inheritance of the favorable variations because they pass it on to their progeny also, and then gradual accumulation of favorable variations over many generations leads to the origin of new species. Okay, this is how Darwin said that new species are formed from existing ones. Okay, so there were a lot of examples that we discussed, especially industrial melanism, the Biston betularia, the peppered moth, right? The story of that is something that you definitely must know, and also you must know how to explain the giraffe story in Darwin's language. Okay, that is also something that we have discussed previously. So this is basically the difference between Lamarckism and Darwinism. In fact, I think I have told you this before, that Lamarck, we can't say that his theory was completely false. The only thing was that he failed to explain it in so much sense as Darwin managed to do, right? So compared to these two, Darwinism is what we are able to accept more. Okay, so that's about it. You also must know the difference between Lamarckism and Darwinism. Alright, so theory of natural selection and the theory of inheritance of acquired characteristics brings us to more than 60% of the chapter. But before we proceed, let me remind you about the amazing microcourses that we have. This is the right time, I would honestly say this is also a little late because exams are about to start within less than a week, especially for ICSE children. But even then, this is not the eve of the exam, so let me keep reminding you, we have amazing microcourses, topic-wise microcourses that you can choose from, available at flat ₹1, so definitely make use of it. Just visit the microcourse section, the link of which is given in the description box below. See the topics from those listed, whichever you need extra help with, and get all your doubts cleared before it is eve of the exam. Okay? So moving ahead, human evolution, which is a topic that many of you tend to avoid. Again, this topic we have done in detail in our regular sessions of ICSE. So today, let's just sum up the basic characteristics of all the stages. There are a lot of stages, but then according to your syllabus, these are the stages that you must know. Australopithecus, which is ape man as we commonly call it, Homo habilis, and then Homo erectus, Homo neanderthalensis, and Homo sapiens. Okay, so with that, let's move ahead. So I have summed up all of this. I think there is a table very, very similar to this also, which is given in your textbook. I think in the Selena publication textbook, there is a table which summarizes the characters. So do have a look at that and make sure you don't just read through blindly. Make sure you form a story in your mind according to the names of each stage, so that it's much easier for you to recall when it comes to exams. Okay, children. So the first two characteristics, these are the names of the stages that we must know. Bipedalism and cranial capacity. I have summarized all about them in each stage in these two. Australopithecus was nearly straight because ape man, right? So nearly straight, not completely straight. Homo habilis was slightly more erect than the previous one. Homo erectus was fully erect, just as the name tells you, erectus, which means fully erect. And then absolute bipedalism for Homo neanderthalensis, and perfect bipedalism for Cro-Magnon man, and again perfect bipedal locomotion when it comes to modern man, Homo sapiens. Okay, so Cro-Magnon man also, just for your information, belongs to the species Homo sapiens, but I've used that name to give you the difference between ancient Homo sapiens and modern Homo sapiens. Okay, and then coming to cranial capacity, Australopithecus, it was only about 450 to 600 cc, cubic centimeters, and Homo habilis was slightly bigger than that, as you can see. Erectus even bigger, and when it came to Homo neanderthalensis, it came even much closer to that of modern man, which is 1450 cc, which is very, very close to modern man's. As you can see, after Homo neanderthalensis or Neanderthal man, it hasn't changed too much. Okay, this is the range that you would see in Cro-Magnon man and Homo sapiens, and in modern man, I mean. And then coming to size of canine teeth, and a little bit of features about other teeth are also mentioned here. Other types of teeth are also mentioned here. In this case, we can just say it was pretty much the same as that of modern man. Homo habilis also the same thing. Homo erectus, you can see the canines of the lower jaw were larger, more like modern man's. And then Neanderthal man had smaller canines, heavier than modern man's, and wisdom teeth were also found to be present in Neanderthal man, just like modern man does, right? And then here also it's very similar to Neanderthal man. Again, Homo sapiens, we know, small canines. As compared to other organisms like flesh-eating organisms, humans have much smaller canines, right? That is why this evolution came into existence, and everything else, as you can see, was pretty much the same in these three stages. And then forehead and brow ridges. If you think of the face of each of the stages, if you think about how the face of man changed from looking like an ape to what he looks like today, what we look like today, you will be able to write this, okay? For example, Australopithecus, because he was called ape man. I mean, he was called ape man because of all these features. Low forehead, eyebrow ridges were projective over the eyes, okay? And it kept on becoming closer and closer to what we see today, in the sense steep forehead, reduced brow ridges, and the flattened face as we see in modern man. And coming to 3 more features that we must know: development of this chin, body hair, and height and posture. All of these, as you can see, are on a gradational basis, basically from lower to higher, or primitive to becoming better. Hopefully we are also aiming towards becoming better in future. Nobody knows about that, but anyway, think about it like that. A prognathous face in this case, almost no chin in the case of Homo habilis, and that kept on developing until Cro-Magnon man came up with a well-developed chin, and Homo sapiens or modern man has a prominent chin without a snout at all, okay, as compared to the primitive ancestors. Whereas body hair, similarly, there was a lot of body hair in the primitive forms, and today modern man has highly reduced body hair as compared to ancestors, right? And then about height and posture, again, average height is all that we can write, but yes, specific cases may differ, but more or less 120 centimeters is what ape man was, roughly as tall as 120 centimeters, and that's kept on increasing. The average height kept on increasing. Homo erectus was roughly around 5 feet in height, and today we know that modern man can be on an average anywhere between 160 to 190 centimeters. But of course we know that human beings have a huge range of height, but this is just there to give you a rough idea about what the ranges are like. Okay, and with that we come to the end of the stages of human evolution. Once again, children, know the common names of each of them, know which stage is called the handy man, which stage is called erect man, which one is ape man, and so on. Know the difference between them, basically what were the major, most obvious changes. In fact, these 3 slides that I showed you are pretty much good enough for you to remember what features you need to know. So these 7 features, I think there are 7 features, 3 here, 2 here and 2 here. Yes, 7 features that you must know to be able to compare all of them, and then you are good to go. Okay, and yes, here we go. As I told you, we have come to the end of the summary of this chapter, Human Evolution. These are our wonderful toppers, the children who studied with Vedantu and scored very, very well in ICSE 2019 exams. You will certainly be able to do it, children. Trust me, you will be able to do it. Never mind what happened in the past. Don't think about that at all. Now is the time to start doing everything in the right manner. There is no time to waste thinking about past regrets. So make sure you are completely focused in the days to come until your exams, until your very last exam is done. We are always here to support you. Fast track series have been happening. For some of our subjects, it's done already. Some of them are still happening. I think by this week, we'll be done with fast track of all the 4 major subjects: math, physics, chemistry, and bio. And yes, that would pretty much expose you to the possible kinds of questions that you can expect from the ICSE board exams in these subjects. Okay, so stay with us. We are also always here to support you. And now time for the quiz. Let's get started. The theory of inheritance of acquired characters was proposed by Lamarck, Darwin, Weismann, Mendel. Theory of inheritance of acquired characteristics. Very, very simple. We started off today's session talking about that. And your time ends in 3, 2, 1 and go. The answer is Lamarck, right? Lamarckism is the other name for this theory. The next one, the phenomenon by which nature chooses a trait over another due to survival advantages is called dash. Now this will seem very, very easy for you at this point because we are specifically talking about the chapter evolution. But when it comes in your final exam, which means you do not know specifically which chapter each question is coming from, right? So you may end up getting confused. Think about it in that angle. What can possibly be the answer? Speciation, genetic drift, natural selection, or is it inheritance of acquired traits? Nature chooses a trait over another due to survival advantages. Yes? And your time ends in 3, 2, 1 and go. The answer is natural selection. Right, Darwin's theory. Now, the human ancestor who was called handyman. Yes, was it Homo sapiens, Homo erectus, Homo neanderthalensis or Homo habilis? Handyman. Why was he called handyman in the first place? Think about that. This is why I said learning this like a story would certainly help you retain the concepts in your memory. Okay? It can be a very, very weird one. You don't have to say the story out to anybody. As long as you remember everything, all the details in the right manner, that's all that I care about. Okay? So your time ends in 3, 2, 1 and go. The answer is Homo habilis, handy man. The next one, the immediate ancestor of present day humans. Okay, very simple again. Cro-Magnon man, Homo erectus, Homo neanderthalensis, Homo habilis. I don't think you need much time to answer this. Your time ends in 3, 2, 1 and go. The answer is Cro-Magnon man. Again, as I told you, he was also belonging to the species. He also belonged to the species Homo sapiens. But because he was primitive compared to today's man, we give him a different name, Cro-Magnon man. Okay. Now, which of these is or are an inherited trait? Okay. Which of these is or are inherited traits? Is it playing a sport? Is it tanned skin? Is it hair color? Or do you think it's all of these? Inherited traits. What are inherited traits and what are acquired traits? You must know the difference between those two. If you have understood the gist of Lamarckism, you will certainly get this idea correctly. Okay, your time ends in 3, 2, 1 and go. The answer is hair color, inherited trait. What about the others? Playing a sport, tanned skin, all of these are things that you acquire because of your practice, because of your sheer hard work, or because of getting exposed to the sun, going to the beach, taking a sun bath. All of that is what would lead you to having a tanned skin. But then that doesn't mean your children will inherit the tanned skin, right? So among these, it's only hair color which is genetically determined. And there we go. Well done. Clap for yourselves because we are done discussing the chapter in one shot, Human Evolution. Okay, and here we go, sharing our 2019 amazing results once again proudly. It's also to inspire you because children who studied with Vedantu in the last academic year 2019 exams, CBSE 12th, we've got some amazing results, and likewise for CBSE 10th, ICSE 10th, and also a lot of children who qualified with the KVPY scholarship and PRMO. So you can definitely be there with a little bit of extra dedication and hard work. Stay away from all distractions in the next few weeks, children, and just make sure you stay with us also, because we alone can't do it. You will certainly benefit from our guidance also. So let us go ahead in this journey together until it's completely done, right? So as I told you, here is a list of the complete ICSE Biology playlist. The chapter Evolution also we've discussed over 2 or 3 sessions, I guess. So everything about Lamarckism, Darwinism and human evolution, whatever it is that you want to get detailed explanations on, please do check out their respective videos in the playlist. Okay, and we also have some diagram series. Now this chapter, let me tell you, Evolution is not a chapter which you can expect diagram based questions from, but also there are some exams which have asked questions based on this chapter. Of course, not as frequently as many other plant physiology and various other chapters. But then if at all it does come, it would mostly be based on giving you a picture of one stage of human evolution and asking you questions based on that. But anyway, have a look at these 5 videos in the diagram series and you will be much better prepared to face diagram based questions in any chapter at all. Okay, and here we go with the complete fast track ICSE playlist, which means physics, chemistry, bio and math. All the 4 subjects fast track series. All the chapters have been covered. Of course, not one chapter per session. We have clubbed them so that it's much easily available to you in one single video. Okay, we have clubbed like 2-3 chapters per session and given you the most important question types so that it boosts your confidence in facing any question in these subjects. Okay, and of course we understand motivation is very, very important at this point of time. So we have a separate playlist called Students Corner, wherein we've made a lot of videos on exclusively aiming at helping you reduce your anxiety, helping you how to make a timetable, study timetable, how to make a customized timetable, everything and anything that you can think of during exam season. I have answered those questions here, so please do have a look at those also, because certainly you will find them useful. Not just academic related stuff. At Vedantu, we believe that we need to give you complete guidance because we have also been through all this. We would love to share everything based on our experiences also, so that you benefit from all of those. So do check out this also, children, because you will certainly find it useful. And yes, children, coming to the end of today's session, if you have found this session useful, human evolution in one shot, do remember to hit the like button now before you sign off, and please do share it with all your ICSE friends, because chapters in one shot will certainly benefit everyone, right? Because like 20-25 minutes of the entire overview of chapters is what we have been aiming to do through these series. So certainly it will benefit all of them. And also do remember to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done it yet, because until your exams are completely done, we will keep coming up with a lot of interesting content. And especially as a bio teacher, I would tell you, and until the end of March, definitely stay tuned, because your last exam is going to be bio. And do feel free to reach out to me at my email ID, ambika.gopalakrishnan@vedantu.com. Until we meet again in another chapter, an interesting session, this is Ambika signing off. Bye bye.